Welcome to AI Solutions, the pathway to profit. Let's get right into it. The noise around AI right now is deafening. Every conference, every LinkedIn feed, every boardroom is buzzing with it. Frankly, most of it is just that, noise. I've sat in too many meetings where the first question is, how do we use this new model? And it's a surefire way to burn cash. It's a solution desperately looking for a problem. So in this inaugural episode, Beyond the Hype, Finding Your Business's Why for AI, we're going to flip that script. Before you spend a dime on tech, what I like to see is a brutally honest answer to one simple question. Why? What specific, painful problem are we actually trying to solve? This isn't the sexy part, but it's the only part that leads to profit. This is the foundation, and it is absolutely non-negotiable. Let's get started. So many businesses right now are caught in what I call the AI FOMO trap, that intense fear of being left behind. You see a competitor launch something splashy, and the pressure mounts. What I see happening then is a rush to the hardware store, so to speak. Leaders go out and buy the biggest, most expensive, most powerful tool available without a clear blueprint for what they actually want to build. They bring it back to the team, and it just sits there, underutilized. This tech-first approach is the fastest way to get a costly piece of software gathering digital dust. It leads to disillusionment, and worse, it makes your team skeptical of the next initiative. What we're going to do on this journey is make sure your AI project doesn't become another one of those grim statistics. So how do we sidestep that expensive trap? What I always advise is to invert the entire conversation. We need to stop asking, what shiny new AI can we use? And start with a much more fundamental question. What are our most persistent, most costly, or most challenging business problems? I like to frame this as a pure strategy session, not a technology meeting. For a moment, let's pretend AI doesn't even exist. What keeps you up at night? Where are the real bottlenecks? Maybe you're seeing high customer churn and you can't figure out why? Perhaps your supply chain is a constant source of headaches and delays. Or it could be that your sales team is working hard, but conversion rates just aren't where they need to be. These are the starting points. This is where the real value is hiding. Long before we ever talk about a single algorithm. Okay, so once you have that list of business problems, what I find works really well is to categorize them. It helps bring clarity. What I do is use a simple framework I call the 3 pillars of AI value. The first pillar is enhance efficiency. This is the most straightforward one. It's about looking at your current processes and asking, can we do this faster, cheaper, or with fewer errors? It's about pure operational excellence. The second pillar is elevate experience. This one focuses squarely on people, both your customers and your own team. You might find this is where you can build real loyalty by making interactions smoother and more satisfying. And the third pillar, the really exciting one, is enable innovation. This isn't about doing old things better. It's about doing entirely new things that were simply impossible before. Using these 3 pillars helps you map those problems to a tangible type of value. Let's dive into that first pillar, enhance efficiency. Now, when I say efficiency, what I find is that most people immediately jump to basic automation, like replacing a simple repetitive task. That's a start, but we need to think bigger. What I like to see is a focus on high-value, expert-level work. For instance, imagine you have a team of expensive lawyers spending hundreds of hours reviewing contracts. A great why would be to cut that down. You could use an AI that scans these documents for non-standard clauses, flagging only the critical 10% that need human review. Suddenly, you've reduced legal review time by 90%. Or, think about operational costs. You might find that a commercial building's energy bill is a huge, uncontrollable expense. An AI that analyzes real-time occupancy data and local weather forecasts to optimize the heating and cooling can directly cut that cost. In both cases, the why is crystal clear: measurable cost savings and optimizing your most valuable resources. All right, let's look at that second pillar: elevate experience. When I say this, I know many people immediately think of those generic, often frustrating chatbots. But what I encourage you to do is think beyond that. I like to see AI used as a powerful co-pilot for your team, making them better at their jobs. For instance, imagine your customer service agents on a tough call. An AI could be listening in real time, analyzing the customer's sentiment and intent, and providing live prompts to the agent. Like, "The caller is becoming agitated. Try rephrasing with empathy." It's about empowering your people, not replacing them. You might also find this useful in B2B. What I've seen work wonders is an AI that predicts which clients are at risk of churning by analyzing their platform usage and communication history, then proactively suggests specific outreach strategies to your sales team to re-engage them. That's how you build loyalty and protect your revenue. Now for the third pillar: enable innovation. What I find is this is where the real magic happens, where you can fundamentally change the game. We're not just improving a process, we're creating entirely new capabilities. What I like to see are truly game-changing applications. For instance, think about a pharmaceutical company. Instead of years of manual lab work, you could use generative AI to simulate and test thousands of molecular compounds digitally, drastically shortening the timeline for drug discovery. Your why isn't just efficiency. It's getting life-saving treatments to market years sooner. Or you might find this works in retail. Imagine an AI that analyzes local event schedules, real-time social media trends, and even weather patterns to create hyper-localized, short-term promotions for a specific store. That's not just a sale. It's a dynamic response to the world around you, something that was impossible to do at scale before. So this all sounds great in theory, but how do you actually find your why in a structured way? What I find works incredibly well is to run a simple why workshop. First, what I do is get people from different parts of the business in a room: sales, operations, marketing, finance, you name it. I ask each person to list their top 3 headaches, the things that create friction, or their top 3 wishes, the things that would be game changers if they were possible. The goal is just to get all that raw potential on the table. Then for the second step, we take that big list and map every single item to one of our 3 pillars: efficiency, experience, or innovation. This really helps clarify the type of value we're chasing. Finally, and this is the crucial part, we prioritize. What I like to use is a simple 2x2 matrix. On one axis, you plot potential business impact, and on the other, implementation feasibility. The ideas that land in that top right quadrant, high impact, high feasibility, that's your starting line. That's your first why. Now, once you have your potential why, it's just as critical to look out for the why nots. The common pitfalls I see derail even the best-intentioned projects. First is what I call shiny object syndrome. This is chasing a trendy new AI model instead of focusing on the core business problem. What I always do is pull the conversation back to the why we established, not the what of the tech. Next is the data mirage. You might find you've identified a fantastic problem to solve, but the data you need to fuel the AI simply isn't there, or it's a complete mess. It's a crucial reality check. And finally, what I find is the most damaging is the ivory tower why. This is when the strategy is built by leadership in isolation, without talking to the frontline teams who will actually use the tool. For real success, you have to get their buy-in from day one. Let me walk you through a real-world example to make this concrete. What I find is that the best case studies are often the most practical. I worked with a mid-sized fresh produce distributor, and their biggest headache, the single largest drain on their profit, was spoilage. Perfectly good food being thrown away every single week. Their why was brutally simple: stop the waste. So what we did was implement an AI-powered demand forecasting system. What I like to see in these solutions is a rich mix of data. It analyzed their historical sales, but it also layered in upcoming weather forecasts and local holidays. The system learned that a sunny weekend meant a run on barbecue items. The result? Within 6 months, they cut spoilage by 30%. That single change boosted their profit margin by 5%. They took their biggest cost center and turned it into a real competitive advantage. That's the power of finding the right why. So, to pull this all together, what I like to do is give you a quick tool you can use right away. It's a simple AI why checklist. Just 4 questions to ask before you take another step. First, what I always check is this: is my why tied to a specific, measurable business KPI, like reducing costs by 10% or increasing conversion rates by 5? If you can't measure it, it's not a solid why. Second, have you considered all 3 pillars? You might find that while efficiency is good, the real game changer is in elevating customer experience or enabling true innovation. Third, who supports this idea? What I like to see is both executive sponsorship to fund it and frontline buy-in from the people who will live with it every day. You need both. And finally, have you done a gut check on your data? Is the data you need to power this solution actually available and in usable shape? It's the ultimate reality check. So as we wrap up our first episode, the one thing I want you to take away is this: before you look at a single piece of technology, you must have your why. What I find, time and time again, is that a clear, strategic why is the non-negotiable foundation for achieving real, tangible profit with AI. It's what separates the successful projects from the expensive failures. Thank you so much for joining me on this first step of the journey. Now that you know how to find your why, you need the right fuel for the engine. Join us next time for episode 2, Your Data is Your Moat, Why Off-the-Shelf AI Isn't Enough, where we'll reveal why your unique data is your ultimate competitive advantage in the age of AI.